I'm currently the only person in the world who owns this machine. And today, we're gonna see if it lives up to the hype. Today, we are looking at the Freak Athlete Apex. And by the way, real quick, thanks Freak Athlete for sending this out for review. And I do have an affiliate link in the description below. If you use that link, it does help out the channel at no additional cost to you. And part of the deal for me being the only one to get this machine is that since I am the only one who has it, not even the owners have a full production unit of this machine, I had to make the assembly video. So if you do buy this machine, you're gonna see this ugly mug when you go to put it together. And this ugly mug belongs to Ryan Treadaway, founder of TreadawayTraining.com. If you want to learn more about all things home gym, consider subscribing to the channel. And if you wanna work with us to learn how to put your equipment to good use to transform your body, consider working with Treadaway Training. Right out of the gate, the first thing that you will notice is this thing is a beast. This is a big, beefy boy. The Apex is a 4-in-1 machine. It's a GHD, back extension, reverse hyper, and Nordic bench. And one thing that's really cool about the Apex is it's Freak Athlete's first officially commercially rated product. Over time, their products have continued to get better and better, and I would argue that their ABX adjustable bench is of commercial quality. However, this is actually officially commercially rated, and Yogi outright told me he wants this to be able to go into commercial gyms. And you'll be able to see that that drove some of their design decisions that we'll point out in a minute. And as I already mentioned, this is a beefcake. It is 52 inches tall. It's 45 inches to the top of the pad, 70 inches long, 39 inches wide, and there's a 3-inch gap between the pads. And I never thought that pad gap is something that I would actually have to specify in a video, but after reviewing the GetRx Hyperglide, which is a similar machine to this, that machine only has an 1.5 inch gap in between the pads. And to say this delicately, it's not very comfortable for the majority of male users. There are 10 angle adjustments. There's a pressure tube to make adjusting easier, and there's 18 height adjustments. Let's talk about each of the 4 official modes. The first of those functions is GHD mode. And the first thing you'll notice about GHD mode is it doesn't have a true fully rounded top pad like a standalone GHD would have. And that is because it is a multifunction machine. It's a reverse hyper, it's a back extension, and it's a Nordic bench, and all 3 of the other features require you to have a flat surface to lay on. So one of the questions that you might be asking is, does the lack of the completely rounded pad take away from the GHD function? And in my personal opinion, not really. I actually jumped back and forth between the Apex and the Hyper Pro with the GHD pad on it, so a true fully rounded pad. And when literally comparing them side by side, I could tell a slight difference, but frankly, because your knees are gonna be here in the front of the pad, and then you're gonna be rounding over the hump here, you really don't notice it that much. Even though it's not a true rounded pad, you actually don't feel much of a difference. You can tell a slight difference literally comparing them side by side, but this is like 90% of the way there. And so the way I'm looking at it is, would I rather have a little bit more of a round on the pad, or would I rather have 4 machines in one? And when you make that comparison, it seems like one of those is a little bit better than the other. And this is where I said it gets into some of their design decisions, because with this machine specifically, since they wanted it to be able to go into a commercial gym setting, they wanted no removable pieces or attachments or stuff like that that are inevitably going to get lost or broken. And so they decided to make one fixed pad that would never come off. And if you want to see more content like this, consider subscribing. And if we're switching into the next function, back extension mode, which it can be a 90-degree back extension or a 45-degree back extension or anything in between, this is another place where you can see one of those design decisions. All you have to do, pull a pop pin and adjust it down. And you can see, if you peek through, there's a little gas strut here, a little pressure tube that makes adjustments easier. So another thing that they were thinking of to make ease of use top of mind because of thinking of a commercial gym setting. So even though this thing is a massive boy, you could see how easy it was to adjust that. There are laser cut indicator numbers for every hole, and another design decision you'll see is rather than going with angle numbers, they opted to just number the holes 1 through 10. I asked Yogi about that, and he said the reason why they did it that way is because if somebody's new to working out and they just don't really understand like what those numbers mean, it's simpler for some users to just see 1 through 10. But if we adjust it all the way up here, adjusting the length of the foot pad, also very simple. Another pop pin, pop it, let it down to the height that you want. As you can see, pretty much exactly what you would expect out of a 45-degree back extension. Relatively comfortable to use, if you know what I'm saying. And that does bring me to one note that I do want to make. As you can see, I am uncomfortably close to the ceiling, and I do want to point that out because this is a beefy boy. Your starting point is almost 4 feet off the floor to the top of the pad when it's in flat mode. And so when you angle it up, that gets even higher. And while it's not going to be a huge issue for most of you out there, these are 8-foot ceilings and my head does touch the ceiling, as you could see. So for the like 8 of you out there who are 6 foot plus and we're thinking about putting this in a basement with 7-foot ceilings or something like that, sorry, you're gonna be out of luck. And one thing that I do wanna experiment with, because I feel like there's something here, is using the pendulum arm for the reverse hyper to add resistance to your back extensions. So if you scoop it like right here, it's not intended to be used this way, but I could definitely see that, you know, maybe, oh, I know. If you get some U-clips and slap on each of these, it's gonna give you a little bit of extra length, which is gonna let the pendulum drop down a little bit more and bring this pivot point closer to you. I just figured that out in real time. I think that could work. But with this like pulling me, it gives me some spinal decompression as I go forward. I'm gonna keep playing with that because I think that there's something there for using the pendulum arm for your resistance for back extensions. Next up is reverse hyper mode. I've had many machines in the home gym that are multifunction machines that claim to do reverse hypers. And one thing that I have said every single time is, yes, they can technically do reverse hypers, but there's a difference between can do something and is actually good at doing the thing. And so what I can happily say is, finally, for the first time, I have a good, nay, great hyperextension machine in the home gym. This thing works really well. I only have one other reverse hyper that I can compare it to. I've used the Rogue RH2 before, and I can say that this feels better than the Rogue RH2, and the RH2 only has one function, whereas this is 4 machines in one. But enough talking about it, let's actually look at it. And one thing that I also like about it is there's 2 different sets of handles. There's a further pronated, and then there's a closer neutral grip. And one thing that I personally like to do is set it so that I can kind of like wedge my hands in between the angled pad and the handles, and it really gets me in super duper tight so that I'm only focusing on my posterior chain when I'm doing the reverse hypers. The 4th and final feature is Nordics. And one thing that I will note is you are 45 inches off the ground, basically 4 feet, and it's a half Nordic bench. So the first time that you do Nordics on here, it's mildly disconcerting. However, you're locked in, you're not going anywhere. And after you do it 2 or 3 times, you're like, okay. But it's just that first rep on your first set, you're like, whoa, I'm going down. But for that reason, I would say if you're buying this for a home gym setting and Nordic curls are the main exercise you're buying it for, I would opt for the Hyper Pro over the Apex simply because it is a full Nordic bench. When you're in flat mode, you're like 10 inches off the ground and it's roughly half the price. But I mean, this thing still does an excellent job at Nordic curls. This honestly feels like a direct shot at the Rogue Donkey, and it wins. It has better leg roller padding. Both the top and bottom leg roller are adjustable. It has 18 height adjustments versus 10. It has 10 angle adjustments versus 0. And it has 2 sets of foot plate handles versus just 1. And it's $280 cheaper. The Apex is $19.95 and the Rogue Donkey is $2,275. And I don't really have a ton negative to say about this machine. A couple of things that I will nitpick are I wish there were steps on both sides instead of just one. But I mean, I guess as a little bit of a consolation prize, you can choose which side you put the steps on. And I wish the back step was in the same orientation as the front step. They angled it out this way toward the user when you're on the floor to make it easier to step up into the machine. It would be no problem at all to step onto a horizontal step that's in front of you. However, when you are up on top of the machine, the foot platform is underneath and behind you. So you have to find the step when you're getting down. And the only other complaint that I have is I found the belt to be a little bit too long for my preferences. I find that when my legs are at the peak of the forward swing and they're about to come back, there's that split second where there's no tension on the belt and it had a tendency to want to slide just a little bit. And I spoke to Yogi about this and he said that after a whole bunch of testing, they found this length to be the best for the vast majority of people. However, if you are like me and you find that the belt is a little bit too long, they said to contact them and they will send you a shorter belt completely free of charge. And frankly, with those nitpicks aside, I would say that this is the new winner. This is the new machine to measure against in this category. But I have only been testing the Apex for about a week and a half now. Frankly, I had to get this video up while I'm still the only person in the world to own the machine, the life of someone on YouTube. But I am going to continue thoroughly testing this machine. It is one of my favorite machines right now. And let me know what you want to see in an in-depth long-term review so that I'll keep that in mind for my testing. And again, if you want to check this out, link is down in the description. As always, God bless you and your family, and we'll see you next time. Oh my goodness.